We're gonna start in tabletop. So come on down, hands and knees. I'm gonna turn these lights down just a little bit. I feel like I'm under a spotlight. So once you get there, shift those hips from side to side. Left to right, and see how far off to the left and right you can go without falling over. So it's like you're trying to touch your hip almost to the floor without falling over. So you're just going way. You can even widen your knees a little bit if you want. They don't need to be right in perfect tabletop. Let's make a little circle. So just move those hips around. I was also telling Monica how hard it is for me to do these 30-minute classes. So it's going to take me a little while to get used to them. Let's go the other direction. They're fun though. Quick little snippet. It's enough, especially in the morning. I feel like for me, it would be like, okay, a couple times a week, just better than nothing. All right, let's come on back to center. Get those knees back under the hips if they went out, and wrists under the shoulders. Nice inhale into cow. Close those eyes and connect the breath and the movement together. Soften the jaw. As you inhale, push away from the floor. As you exhale, push away from the floor. Have it be a dance between the breath and the body. All right, let's take those knees a little wider. Push those hips on back to extended child's pose. Now, as you all know, I can't press back all the way still, although it's a great stretch for my knees. So I'm going to press back as far as I can. I'd like you to do the same. So push those hips as far back as they'll go. Some of you, your bottom's going to come right to your heels. If you've got knee stuff like me, maybe not. Maybe those hips are floating a little higher. But let the belly relax. Inch the fingertips forward, way forward. Plant those palms like we would kind of for down dog. Spread those fingers and pull back. Let the head relax. Let the belly relax. Find a nice deep breath here all the way down into the belly. And then drop a little deeper. Inhale, lift a little, big breath. Exhale, sink. One more. All right, let's lift up, shift forward until you can bend those elbows and get them to the floor. Inch them in so they're right under the shoulders, and the hands can come closer, they can stay wider, you can play with that a little bit. If you can keep them straight out, great. It's a good rotation for the shoulders. If you can't though, they can come in, they can even interlace or come into prayer. Okay, knees are back underneath you. Let's take that right knee off the floor and just start making a circle with it. So it doesn't matter what direction you're going, doesn't matter what size the circle is, just get that hip joint moving and then get a little bigger and then start making the biggest circle you can. Keep that breath going. Other direction, keep it big. And bring it down. Get those elbows back underneath you if they slid apart, engage your core, and then do the other side. So just start off kind of whatever size circle you started off with on the other side. Keep that core going, keep that breath going. I tend to hold my breath on this one. And then when you're ready, find that nice big circle. Other direction, keep it big. And bring it on down. Walk the hands towards you and rise on up to your knees. So you're standing on your knees. Try and get those knees right underneath the hips so they're not too wide, they're not too close, they're just a little bit, they're right underneath the hip joints. Tilt those hips back. So squeeze the glutes as you tilt the pelvis back. So you're pulling the belly button to the wall behind you, hands on the back of the hips. Squeeze those elbows together, squeeze those shoulder blades. Told Monica, it takes me a little time to get going on Wednesdays. It's early and I haven't taught in a couple days. So squeeze those elbows and shoulders together. Lift the heart up, lift the chin up. Keep squeezing those glutes. Keep the hips gently pushing forward. Breathe. Keep those elbows drawing towards each other. Use your core to lift you forward all the way back to tabletop. Nice inhale into cow. Exhale, cat and downward facing dog. Come on up. Root those hands, gentle to moderate. So if you want gentle, take the hands and feet wider. If you want a little more moderate, then keep them in our traditional places where the wrists are pretty much in line with the shoulders. And then just start to find some movement. How do those legs feel this morning? Can you find a stretch in those legs? There's no bad movement. So one thing you can try, Monica, that might feel interesting is feet on railroad tracks. And everybody can give this a try if you want, pressing on back into down dog and shifting the hips from side to side, kind of like we did in tabletop, but keeping the legs straight. And then again, same thing, kind of see how far over to the side you can shift them without falling over. Maybe you widen your hands a little, right? And try not to, I tend to twist the hips a little bit, so just really trying to push over to the side. All right, just a little something different. Let's press it back, stretch it back. And let's widen those feet if they're not already. Press back, draw the belly in, draw the heels down. Look back at the wall behind you or whatever's behind you, look in between the legs. Bend those knees, walk the hands towards the feet. Grab the elbows when you get there and drop it into ragdoll, holding the elbows, but drop heavy, 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 let go. Soften the jaw, a little looser. Let go, let go, let go, let go, let go. All right, let's bring it up nice and slow. Drop those arms and let them dangle on the way up. Eventually, when you get up there, sweep those arms overhead and bring it to the heart. Bend the knees for our staff of Brahman. Nice inhale up. Exhale, draw the belly in, dive it down. So keep going until you get a stretch in the backs of the legs. Legs are straight, spine is long, subtle tuck of the chin. Reach out through the fingertips as you pull the belly into the spine and pause there and breathe there and feel the stretch. So if your shoulders are lower than your hips, bring them back up so they're right in front of the hips. Bend the knees slightly. Sweep those arms forward alongside the ears. Gaze in between your feet and reach from the sitting bones to the fingertips. Again, drawing the belly way in. And then let it go. Let those arms dangle this time in your ragdoll. Let the head fall to the floor. Let the jaw soften again. How heavy can you get the arms? Can you let them fall from the shoulders like dead weight so they are literally just dangling? Like if I were there and I could come wiggle your arm, they're like wet noodles. So we used to say, that's how we used to test the kids. We're like, what those wet noodly arms? Like spaghetti. All right, let's bring it up slow this time. Next time we'll come up faster. Once you get up this time, stretch those arms out to a T, straight out, stand up tall, almost like 5-pointed star. It is, but our feet aren't as wide as they would normally be. Hands up overhead, bend the knees. It's the only difference. All right, nice big breaths, nice big inhale up. Nice releasing, exhale, dive it down. Nice big inhale overhead. Nice releasing, exhale, drop it down, let go, let go, let go, let go. Big inhale all the way up in one breath, stretch those arms out and bring it back to the heart, bend the knees. Again, inhale, exhale, dive. Big breaths, big inhale overhead. Nice, releasing, exhale, drop it down. Big inhale up, stretch it out. And bring it back to the heart, bend the knees. Let's open those toes, drop it down into our yogic squat. So my bottom does not drop very low because of my knee, but if you can get that bottom close to the floor, great. Either way, take those elbows, push those knees away as you draw the thumbs closer to the heart. Find that length in the spine, draw the belly in and lengthen. Subtle little tuck of the tailbone, breathe. Hands to the floor, walk it forward, back to our downward facing dog. Stretch it out. Okay, so yogi's choice here. You can kick up and kick through to lunge if you want. If that's too challenging for you, you can drop your knees down and kind of swing it around. Okay, so we're gonna take that left foot forward. into our low lunge. So one way or another, take your time making your way into low lunge. We're gonna rise on up. Feel free to drop the knee down if keeping it up is too challenging for you. So especially this early in our practice, some of you, if you're doing this later in the day, might not find it as challenging because the hip is a little more open, but if you're doing this early, it might be a little more challenging, right? So we want to stay nice and low. We want that hip way down low, right behind the knee. So that's makes holding that back knee up a little challenging. Okay, so find your breath wherever you're at. So you can come up here, you can drop down here. Either way, find the breath. Gently push away from the knee as much as feels okay. So if you've got this knee up, really focus on lifting it up, sinking down and pulling back, almost like we did for that mini camel. So you're pulling the belly into the spine to wake up the front of that hip. Find the breath. Okay, if the knee is up, bring it down. Keep those back toes tucked, sweep the arms up. So you can just do the right arm up or you can do both arms. And then lift the heart up and go back a little bit. Say good, say hello to the front of that right hip. Inhale and exhale, release down, plant that right palm down, open that left arm up. Inhale, twist, get into the upper back a little bit and come on back down. So grab your blocks if you have them at home on the tall side. So if you don't have blocks, I will show you a modification. I really like to do this with blocks though, if you have them. So everything's on clearance here at the studio. So if you don't have blocks, grab some now because now's the time. There's $15 for two for a set. So there's no reason not to have them. So on the tall side, so I'll show you how we're going to work with the blocks if you've got the blocks. So the inhale is going to be sinking down, shoulders go back, palms are on the block, heart and chin lift. So we're literally just letting those hips drop down heavy. That's our inhale. Exhale, pushing the hips back, diving forward. So we're inhaling and exhaling. Okay, if you don't have blocks, you can do fingertips. You're not going to get as far into each pose, right? But you can still do it. You can go back and forth. You can do it up on the thigh. It's a little more balancey. So you can go inhale and exhale. If you have one block, it would be, you would use it on the left side. So if you have at least one block, put it on the left side because it's really just there for balance. They're there for balance, right? So either way, find your movement. Diving back and forth. All right, the next time you come into half monkey pose, so that's with the legs straight, hinge forward and pause. Nice square hips. So a lot of times the hips twist here. So make sure that right hip's pulling forward and it's nice and even with the left. Foot, don't force your foot to stay glued to the floor because it'll make your knee bend. Let it float, but don't flex it. So let it just lift up a little. Pivot those hips, stick those sitting bones out. So reach your bottom towards the wall behind you. As you reach your heart for the wall in front of you, shoulders back, heart open, breathe. Good morning, hamstrings. Bend those, that front knee, walk your blocks forward. If you have your blocks, tuck your back toes under, lift the knee up, step it forward. Set those blocks off to the side, half lift, inhale, exhale, hinge, and all the way up. So notice the difference between the way the left and right hips feel right now. Inhale up. Exhale, dive it down. Half lift, inhale. And exhale, bend those knees deeply. Step that left foot back to our low lunge. So take a moment, exactly where we just were on the other side. So take a moment to get set up. Get as low as you were. Drop that knee down if you did on the other side. Keep the knee up. Whatever you did on the other side, right? So find the leg positioning first, right? So we always work from the ground up in our practice. So get the feet where they need to be, check in with the legs, bring that right hip down, way, way down. So it's hiding right behind that knee. Back knee is up or down. Find the breath. Then hands on the thigh, push away from that thigh. We're not trying to come into a huge back bend. We might be coming into a back bend, but as we go, we want to pull that belly into the spine and scoop our tailbone under. If you've got that knee up, that's a challenge to do. keep that breath going wherever you end up. Maybe the chin lifts, maybe not. Breathe. And if the knee is up, bring it down all the way. Plant that left palm down, open that right arm up, twist, press away, reach and open. Breathe. And come on back, grab those blocks if you're using them. Walk it back. So if you've got one block, once again, this time it's going over on the right side. Okay, and again, they're on the tall side. They're just to give us a little balance. So get set up there with whatever you've got. And again, if you don't have a block, you're just using, you can use the knee, you can use the fingertips. Okay, so on the inhale, sink those hips down, draw the shoulders back, open up that chest. And on the exhale, hinge. Work with the breath. This is vinyasa. So, right, whenever we connect the breath and the body together, or breath and movement. All right, hold it on your exhale, hold it on that Ardha Hanuman, that half monkey pose. Pivot those hips forward, stick that bottom out, reach, breathe. Notice, square off those hips. Notice if you're leaning or twisting. Tuck your chin and look underneath you. You can kind of get a better idea of what's going on in those hips by actually looking. Because what we feel, and sometimes, you know, when early in my practice, early in my years, I would be like, oh yeah, this is it. And then I'd look in a mirror and I'd be like, oh, or not. So mirrors are great. That's what mirrors are good for. We don't have them here at the studio because I feel like they're distracting, but they do serve a good purpose sometimes. All right, let's bend that knee. Walk those blocks forward, tuck those back toes under, lift it up, inhale, and exhale, spring it to the front, half lift, inhale, exhale, hinge, all the way up, inhale, and exhale to the heart. All right, so I want to get a little quad stretch before we try and do half bow. Oh, I know what we'll do. I got it, never mind. Inhale up. Exhale, dive it down. Inhale. And if you have a blanket or anything on your mat, move it off to the side because you're going to be on the belly. Step your feet back to plank. Drop those knees on down. Inhale, push up, 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 up. And bring it down to the floor. So we did this in at least one of my classes last week, this half bow on the side. It's more accessible. It's early, I'm drinking my coffee while I teach, guys, sorry. I told Ellen, I'm like, we can quit coffee together because we both have stomach stuff. Then we didn't, so I'm still drinking my coffee. All right, we're gonna roll over to that left side. Okay, so this is more accessible to people than it is laying on our stomach. So we're gonna do this one first. So over to your left side, left arm comes out to a T. Let me flip around this way, it might be a better angle. Straight out in front. So a lot of people bring it up overhead, but it's right out in front of you. Palm flat, and really press the shoulder, the tricep and the shoulder into the floor. So push away from the floor to push your head away from the floor. If your neck is not strong enough to hold your head up, you can put a block or a blanket underneath if you need to, but try to build that strength if you can. Okay, so you can be in a straight line, shoulder, hip, ankles, or you can bend the knees. It's a little easier. So gentle variation is bending the knees. Moderate is keeping them straight. Reach around, grab that right foot behind you, the top of the foot. So you automatically kind of lift the knee up, bring it down. So it's right in front of the hip. Pull the heel into the bottom for a nice quad stretch. If that doesn't give you a lot of stretch, push your hips forward if you want more stretch. Keep the breath going. Keep the body pushing into the floor, the shoulder, the hip, and the leg, whether you've got the leg straight or bent. Now lift your leg up that you're holding. So your knee is now higher than your hip and your foot is higher than your knee. Roll your shoulder open, lift your ribs up and bring them forward a little, glue them to the floor. Try to keep your right hip stacked on top of the left as you kick back. Push your ribs forward. As you might, if you really work this, a lot of people keep their elbow bent. They don't realize how much they should straighten their arm. So imagine that your foot is stretching out your arm long, let it go. So you have to lift the foot up as you go back. If the knee is as high as the foot, it doesn't work. Find that breath. half bow. So this is half bow, and then we do it on the belly. It's a little different. All right, I'm gonna do a quick twist here. Inhale, kick back. Exhale, release, bring that knee down and in front of you. Inch your left shoulder over to the left a little bit. If there's anything underneath your head, move it out of the way so your head can drop to the floor. Let that right arm fall open so you can get a nice stretch in the front of that right shoulder. That left hand can come down on top of the knee if you want, but it doesn't have to. And then roll your right ribs open, like you're trying to spin your back towards the floor a little bit more to get into that upper back. Keep that breath going. And normally we kind of roll onto our back, we do some core, whatever, we don't have time. So we're just gonna roll on over to that other side. So roll on over, you're probably gonna end up not facing me, but that's okay. Maybe you didn't face me on that side, depending on the side we started on, right? So take a moment, think of all that stuff I just yapped at you about, get yourself set up the same way. And most of you have heard me say this already. I'm so excited that I can grab my own foot. This pose has been in my practice since I started doing my yoga again after my surgery, and I couldn't get my foot for a while. And so I'd yell, I'd be like, Hannah, help. And she'd come running downstairs. I'm like, get my foot. So I can grab it myself now. It's very exciting. All right, so let's do that quad stretch. I can't get my knee low enough, so get your knee right in front of your hip if you can and pull, whoo, baby, pull that heel on in. Push those hips forward if you need more stretch. Find that breath. Keep pushing your whole body into the floor. Keep breathing. All right, find your half bow, kick back. Whole body's pressing to the floor for balance. If you fall backwards, you fall backwards, but play around with it. Instead of kicking back, you got to lift up, then kick back as you push your ribs forward. Find your breath. And again, with that lower knee bent, it's a little easier to stay stable. All right, let's find our twist. Take a moment to open it up. Sink into it, roll those ribs open, close the eyes and tune in to where you feel this in the body. All right, we're gonna roll around onto our bellies. I'm gonna try it now on our stomach. Okay, so the difference between doing half bow on your stomach and on your side is that now your knee stays in line with your hip instead of, you know, when we're on our side, we lift that knee up and the foot kicks back. And now we're trying to keep the knee in line with the hip. So we're gonna do one, I'm gonna flip around and do my easier side first. So we'll go back to doing that right side first. So we're kind of in Sphinx, we're up on our elbows and we're kind of leaning over to the left so we can kick around and hopefully grab that foot and then roll back down to the floor. So if your knee, kind of look back over that right shoulder, if your knee is way outside of your hip, bring it in, see if you can get that knee right behind the hip like we did for the quad stretch. And if you can't get your foot, you can use a strap. You got to kind of undo yourself and flip around and hook your foot with the strap. Okay, pull that heel into the bottom like we did before for that quad stretch. Find your breath. All right, and then kick back. Roll the shoulder open, spin the inside of the elbow, the eye of the elbow open to the side as you kick back. Push into that left arm, that left forearm to push you away from the floor as you push back. Find your breath. And slowly release, come down all the way to the floor, head to the hand, but keep the foot and pull it in again for that quad stretch. Breathe. And release. We'll do the other side and then we'll release that low back. So take a moment to get that foot. Bring it in for your quad stretch. I can't, this is as far as I can go on this side. See how close you can get that heel to the bottom. Whew. All right, push into that arm, kick back. Let that shoulder roll open once again. Keep breathing. Bring it down. Inch that elbow forward till you can rest your head on your hand and bring that foot back in to your quad stretch. Breathe. And slowly release. All right, let's get those hands on their shoulders. So I want you to come back. We do this pose all the time, but I want you to come into it slower than you ever have. Tuck your toes under, push up and pause. And then very, very slowly start to push the hips back towards the heels. Keep your toes tucked if you can, and just stretch it on back. And come on up, downward facing dog. And pedal the feet, rock the hips, loosen up that low back. Do any other movement that feels good here. What does your body need here? And let's take it down to child's pose. So not extended child's pose, but child's pose. So knees are underneath you. Walk those hands back until you can crunch on in, curl right into a tight little ball, and then bring those arms along the sides. So once again, don't use me as the example. Your bottom might be much closer to your heels. I hope it is, because we're trying to get nice and rounded here. And pull your cheeks towards your knees. Some of you might even grab the outsides of your heels and really squeeze in to stretch out that low back. So really scoop your tailbone under as you come into this pose, trying to stretch out that low back. And bring your fingertips to the floor or your hands and just press up until you can lift the head off the floor. And shift on over to one side so you can kick those feet on out in front of you for our Paschimottanasana. So get those hamstrings warmed up a little bit. Let's dive into them a little deeper real quick here. Wiggle those sitting bones back. Find your forward bend. Nice flat back. Roll those shoulders open. Open up the chest. So I've got my hands behind me and I'm pushing forward, but you can grab the legs or obviously use a strap or the feet. Find your depth. Find your just right amount of stretch for your body in this moment. All right, let's release. Let's bring that right foot over left leg. So as you do this, lift up your right sitting bone off the floor and pull it forward, bring it forward just a little bit and then glue it back down. And see how far up towards the hip you can get that right foot. So we want this leg as close to us as we can get it. Like we're just gonna hug right onto it. So if the foot rolls or lifts off the floor, then maybe it stops on the thigh, right? But if you can get it way on up here, great. Interlace the fingers in front of the knee and pull it on in as you pull the heart and knee together. You might even bring that left foot over towards center a little bit to make it a little easier to get to the outside of that hip and just pull it in. So you can just hang out here, pulling in, really rooting that sitting bone down as you pull your belly, your heart, your chest, and squeeze the leg and body together. You can wrap that left arm around and hold it there and come into a twist. So if you're coming into the twist, keep pulling the knee into the body and pulling the body into the knee. So you're keeping them hugged up together. Root down into that right sitting bone, regardless of where you're going with this. Find the breath. Keep pulling that knee on in and pushing down and sitting up tall. The twist adds a little bit more to the outer hip. All right, let's release for the other side. So take a moment, bring that right foot in towards center, get that left foot as far up. And don't forget to kind of lift up. We want the hips pivoting forward. So if we lift up and bring that left sitting bone forward a little bit, we want to make sure we're sitting up nice and straight before we go and that we're not kind of rolling back on those sitting bones. So take a moment to set up on this side, pause and squeeze in for a moment and just sit there. Maybe flex that right foot to get that energy line going down that leg. Find the breath, sit up tall. Can you pull the torso, the stomach, and the chest into the leg a little more? Breathe. So stay here and breathe or find your twist. If you're coming into that twist, make sure your head stays right over center and you're continuing to hug on in. Sink down into that left sitting bone, wherever you're at, sit up tall and pull the leg and body a little closer together. Breathe. And slowly Release. Come on down onto your back. So as you know, I teach my trainees in our yoga teacher training that you never, ever, 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 never skip Shavasana. I don't care who you're teaching to. I don't care how long your class is. If your class is 15-minute long, you take a 1-minute Shavasana or 2-minute Shavasana. So even in this 30-minute class, we do not skip our Shavasana. It's just a little shorter. It's about 3 minutes instead of 6 or 7. So take a moment to come down onto your back and find a pose, find a stretch that your body feels like it needs, maybe a figure 4 or a bridge or a happy baby or a reclined butterfly. Do any of those sound good to you? If so, find one of those. If you're not sure, if you're relatively new to yoga, then just find something that feels good. There's no right or wrong. Pose, a stretch doesn't have to be called something. You can just like move your body in some weird way and find a stretch and have it feel good and be there. It doesn't have to be some pose, so to speak. There's no wrong way to move the body, right? Unless we're forcing. Right, so even these times where I'm like, keep your back straight and do this and do that and make sure you don't do this and make sure you don't do that. It's all relative. Like all those things I'm telling you not to do sometimes, they're okay to do sometimes, depending on what we're trying to achieve. So take a moment. And when you're ready, and y'all watching this recording later, do not skip this part. You're only doing 30 minutes anyway. Give yourself 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes to let the integration happen. This is kind of the piece to the puzzle, partially. There's more to it. I feel like the 2 pieces to the puzzle that make yoga different than any other that's not exercise, right? Is the breathing, our focus on the breathing, our body awareness. But then this integration, this thing we call Shavasana, right? It just gives us some time to stop and just be with ourselves for a minute and just let ourselves be. How often do we do that? So give yourself permission to just be. There is no perfect position. The position we traditionally use is Shavasana, but it could be anything. Doesn't matter. You could be sitting up. You could be a meditation pose if you want this morning or evening. Wherever you're at, settle in, close the eyes, find the breath. Feel the inhales come in, fill you up. Feel the exhales move out, helping you to let go. Inhale, expanding. Feel, connect with that sense of expansion. Exhaling, releasing, letting go. Feel that sense of release, softening, letting go. Feel every muscle, tendon, ligament, and even joint in your body relax a little more with that exhale. Every bit of tension, worry, stress that's being held in your body, at least momentarily, dissolves with that exhale. It's like the inhales are filling us up with everything we need today, bringing in all the good stuff. And the exhales are releasing all of the stuff we don't need that doesn't serve us today. Let it all go. Just a couple more breaths. Nice big breaths for now. Let the breath settle. You can keep with those nice big breaths and maybe add an affirmation or mantra if you like. Or you can settle the breath down and just let it be for a moment. And same thing, you can add a count or mantra or affirmation to the breath, even if it's a soft, easy breath. And bring full awareness to your body. What does your body feel in this moment? Are there any sensations in the body? Just bringing awareness to the sensations that may be there or the lack of sensation, possibly. And then when you're ready, slowly allowing movement to make its way back in. Stretching, wiggling, moving. Eventually landing in seated in Anjali Mudra, prayer at the heart. Pressing those hands on into the heart, sitting up tall, tucking the chin, finding the breath here at the heart center. Everything comes to you in the right moment. Be patient. Be grateful for what is right now. Nice big inhale here at the heart. And exhale, bowing down. Say thank you to yourself for showing up here on your mat.